If you're into retro gaming, you've probably seen these handheld devices that play a bunch of games. There are several companies behind them, like Powkiddy, Retroid, and Ambernic. You might be overwhelmed by all the options that are out there, but I believe I found the best retro handheld. Let's take a look. Hey, what's going on? It's Podrez coming at you with another video. Alright, so let me know in the comments, do you have a device like this one? Let me know, or join our Discord server and tell me all about it. discord.podrez.net. If you've seen a couple of my videos and you like what I do, hit the subscribe button right there. Anyway, I have not played this yet, so let's check it out. A few years back, I bought the Anbernic RG351M after hearing good reviews about it. I wanted to play some retro games in a small form factor, and I admired that this particular model was made out of aluminum. While I did have some fun with the 351M, I was somewhat disappointed with this unit. The screen resolution is extremely tiny. Not even NES games can display at their full resolution without resizing. Also, you might be able to tell, but the unit is not comfortable to hold. The quality is excellent, but the ergonomics are very poor. It's nearly a perfect rectangle, so it's obviously not going to be that comfortable. Another minor complaint about the 351M is how difficult it is to charge. If you use the cord that it comes with and plug it into a power source, it will charge just fine. But you're not going to be able to use cords that have a higher power delivery like USB-C to USB-C. If you try, nothing will happen. This is inconvenient because I can't use my phone charger to charge this unit. Most devices would allow me to do this, so it's definitely a point against the 351M. I wanted to like this unit, but the poor screen resolution and poor ergonomics ruined it for me, so my research for a better handheld emulation console began. There's a few that I had my eye on. I was very close to buying the Trim UI brick because it has nearly everything I want, but the unit did look too small, and I did want to stick with Anbernic because I do think they have the ability to produce a high quality product. I ended up going with the Anbernic RG4XXV. This one definitely looks incredible out of the box. It's very comfortable to hold in the hands, and the buttons feel great too. There's only one analog stick, which I think is a strange design. I personally didn't care because I'm not going to be playing a lot of games past the Super Nintendo, but you may prefer having two analog sticks. Unfortunately, this unit only comes with a cord and no AC adapter. To make matters worse, this device is also strict about what chargers you can use. I tried using a phone charger, but it didn't work. This is why an AC adapter would have been nice. One cool feature is that you're able to use this device on a TV screen with a mini HDMI cord. If you don't have a Raspberry Pi or an emulation box of any kind, this will be a decent way to play your favorite games on the big screen. The only problem is that this unit doesn't come with a mini HDMI cord, so I had to buy one off Amazon. I'm not sure why Anbernic only gives you the bare minimum with this device. The ability to play games on the TV is nice, but it's definitely not the best. The stock OS only displays in 720p resolution, and some games look pixelated. Other games display in full screen, so you have to mess around with the settings to get them in the correct aspect ratio. This is annoying because they work just fine in portable mode. I don't want to have to change it and then constantly change it back. I bought a few additional accessories to complement this unit. I bought the protective case straight from the Anbernic website, and I did buy a tempered glass screen protector off Amazon. None of these things are necessary, but it's a nice extra layer of protection if you want it. The stock OS gets the job done, but I'm not a big fan of the design. It does come packed with features though. The unit comes with both RetroArch and another front end called Game Rooms. For those who don't know, RetroArch is an interface that organizes the games and contains a bunch of emulators. RetroArch makes it easier to have an all-in-one gaming device that has everything you need instead of having to download random emulators yourself. Game Rooms doesn't have as many built-in features, but I actually like that. You get a basic menu that has most of the things you need. You might prefer Game Rooms if you find RetroArch's menu to be too intimidating. You also don't get bezels by default, which is a preference of mine. One feature I really like about the RG4XXV is the M button in the center. This will automatically pull up the in-game menu so you can change the settings. This is incredibly nice because with most devices I've used, you have to set up a hotkey to activate the menu, like Start and Select. Having a dedicated button is way more efficient. Anbernic includes a ton of ROMs, and not even just cheap bootlegs. You're getting well-known titles like Contra and Castlevania. The only games you're missing are most of Nintendo's properties like Mario. Some consoles like the N64 hardly have any games whatsoever, probably because these are the only games that work. I'm surprised Anbernic was able to get away with including a bunch of stolen ROMs, but I think they realized that Nintendo was the only company that's really making a big stink about it. Thankfully, you can add your own ROMs by inserting the SD card into your computer and then putting them in the right folders. One thing I do like is that whatever ROMs you add will work in both RetroArch and game rooms. You don't have to put the ROMs in two different folders or anything like that. Let's talk about some of the consoles individually. The NES got the best treatment by far. They managed to include more than 400 games. In fact, it's actually hard to find the game you want because of how many were included. What's nice is that you can favorite a particular game so that you can access it easier on the favorite section. I tried a bunch of different NES games and I didn't notice any issues. I didn't experience any graphical glitches or oddities. The speakers sound excellent too, almost like I'm playing these on real hardware. I fully expected these games to work because it is a 40-year-old console. Anbernic was obviously confident in the NES department considering how many games he included. The Genesis also received over 400 games. Unlike the Nintendo consoles, the Sonic games remained on here, so I didn't have to dig into my own ROM collection all that much. The sound and emulation quality is excellent here too. Even some later games that push the hardware limits seem to run just fine. I even tried Virtual Racing, which is a chip that allows for 3D graphics. If there's any game that wouldn't work, it's this one, but this unit runs it flawlessly. I also tried a bunch of Super Nintendo games and didn't experience any noticeable issues. I even tried a couple Super FX games and they worked flawlessly. The N64 section has a pathetic lineup of games, only 10 total, so I decided to add my own. What's the verdict? You probably already know. A lot of the games run at poor frame rate and contain many graphical glitches. Dr. Mario seemed to work flawlessly at first, but the game crashes every time I get past the menu screen. This is a 2D game, so I'm shocked it doesn't run. Pokemon Puzzle League technically runs, but it's extremely glitchy. It's completely unplayable on this unit. Beetle Adventure Racing basically runs in slow motion. Look at how atrocious this is. Super Mario 64 plays okay, but there are some frame drops. Unfortunately, there's no right analog stick, so you can't move the camera around. I did have a chance to test out the left analog stick, and it does appear to work, but it's hard to make precise movements because of how short it is. If you're looking to play N64 games on a small handheld unit, this is definitely not the one you want. But if you're like me and want to play games before that generation, you're most likely not going to have any issues. Speaking of adding games, there's one unfortunate feature that the stock OS does not have. The games that are already preloaded on here have box art on the right side, but any games you add won't have it. Sadly, there's no scraper feature that allows you to add the box art yourself. This is lame because almost every emulation box has this type of feature. There is unofficial software to get around this though. I tried a few PlayStation 1 games like Crash Bandicoot and Gran Turismo, and the emulation seems flawless. I didn't notice any graphical or sound issues, but I only tried the games that were included on this device and I didn't add my own. I'm not too surprised the games work because PS1 emulation has always been way better than N64. I do like the way they handled the arcade games. For the titles that have a vertical screen, you have the option to play them in the correct resolution. It's awkward to hold the device this way, but at least they offer it. This only works by default with the game room's front end though. You can do it with RetroArch, but you have to change the screen settings and controls to make it happen, which is more trouble than it's worth. If you're not satisfied with the stock OS, there are custom OSs you can install as well. There's a few that are currently available with the RG40XXV, but the one I decided to try out was Knulli. Here we can see the interface is much different, looks way better in my opinion. It comes with a scraper built in so that you can add your own box art. Do I recommend using a custom OS over the stock one? In my opinion, 100% yes. Your mileage may vary depending on which OS you pick, but Knulli is better than stock in every way. The only downsides are that getting the OS installed and configured takes a lot of time, and it only comes with 3 or 4 ROMs pre-installed, all of which are homebrew games, but you can add your own. But some people may not want to go through that. If that's the case, I do think the stock OS will fulfill your basic needs. It has all the essential options, and you're still able to add games. The only downsides are that the interface looks ugly, and you're not going to get some of the extra bells and whistles. Speaking of using a custom OS, I do recommend buying a new SD card for your Anbernic console. From what I understand, the SD cards that come with the unit are not very high quality. I've never even heard of the brand that made this one. In fact, the SD card that came with my 351M died and I lost the entire OS that was on it. If you end up installing a custom OS, do yourself a favor and buy a new SD card. So do I think the Anbernic RG40XXV is worth it? It depends on what you're looking for. If you want to play retro games before the N64, this is one of the best options out there right now. If you want a slightly larger device with a nice screen, this is also one of the better options. But this is not a super powerful device that can run anything you throw at it. If you want to emulate later consoles, this is not for you. The stock OS is also not the best, and you may not like that there's only one analog stick. Overall though, I'm very impressed with this unit, and this will become my new daily driver. Hey, I just wanted to thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, hit that like button. If you enjoy this type of content, hit the subscribe button for more content. Both of these things really help the channel grow. If you have anything to share, feel free to leave a comment. I read every single comment on this channel, and I'm pretty good at replying back. Anyway, have a good one.